Recently, some of my friends that live out of town for school came back for spring break to hang out. We decided to go to the thrift store. Nothing crazy, but as we're walking down the shoe aisle, I spot something out of place. A small cardboard box sits next to these quite frankly fire cherry print Vans. I take a closer look and it's a gaming mouse by Cyberpower PC called the Elite M1. I don't know why it was in the shoe aisle, I didn't put it there. And honestly, if I hadn't found it there, I probably wouldn't have bought it. Anyway, it was like $5, so I have it now, and I'm gonna review it. There are a few things you can spot pretty easily just by looking at the thing. For one thing, it's big. It's got hella buttons. It's wired. We'll get into this wire later. And there's a little door on the bottom. What's in there? You're looking at 126 by 72 by 48 millimeters, so pretty hefty in the size department. Speaking of heft, this thing weighs about 120 grams, which especially by today's standards is pretty damn heavy. Thankfully, we're at a point in gaming mice where we just know that lighter is better. If you remember that little door on the bottom I mentioned earlier, this mouse features adjustable weights. I know this still happens, but I feel like this is more of like a Razer Death Adder era kind of feature. I know the Death Adder didn't have that, but like, I don't know, it just reminds me of that. Each of these weights is about 4.5 or 5 grams, so you can bring the total weight down to about 100 grams if you take all 4 out. Still very heavy. For reference, my main mouse, the OP1, is 50 grams. So half the weight of this, even with all of the weights out. We'll get into what that actually did in terms of gameplay later, but next up, we're going to talk about this cable. This shit is atrocious. I know this is probably just like one of those mice that they include in your PC when you get the pre-build or whatever, but I don't know. I'm still going to talk shit about it. This might be the stiffest cable I've ever seen on a gaming mouse. It's essentially just like, you know, office mouse, but it's weird and like ribbed. I'll show you a close-up so you know what I'm talking about. But another thing is it's also too thin to really fit in a mouse bungee, or at least my mouse bungee, so I had to use it bungee-less, which sort of exacerbated the issue. Again, one of the first things you definitely notice when picking this thing up is the sheer number of buttons on this. There are 9 buttons, 11 if you count scroll up and down, which feels very G502, thanks Logitech. Honestly, the buttons are not bad. My only issue is that with them was like mouse 5 and whatever this like sniper button thing is just too far for me to reach comfortably, considering how big this mouse is. But I mean, they feel fine. Side buttons are kind of mushy, as you might expect. Mouse 1 and 2 feel pretty good though. Scroll wheel is particularly mushy, but who really cares? Other than that, buttons are pretty average to decent. It's a new day. Real quick before we get into this next section, I want to talk about why light mice are better for aiming than heavy mice. But basically, it just takes less effort to start and stop movements with your mouse. Momentum and inertia and whatever. It's easier to make micro adjustments for the same reason pretty much. I also want to mention a difference in specs, like the sensor or pulling rate. Obviously, the OP1 is going to be better on the hardware side. However, that matters far less than something like weight or shape or size when it comes to comparing aim potential with a mouse. It is worth mentioning though that this mouse is only 500 Hz, which is kind of below the standard at this point. In fact, I would say it's more than kind of below. You see a lot of number baiting, that's a weird way of phrasing it, but in gaming mouse marketing, you'll see like 8K fucking 40 million DPI on the product page or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. And a lot of that's just like numbers because it looks nice, not for any real purpose. Anyway, I just wanted to preface that. Something I think I forgot to mention in the first part is the skates, the stock skates on this mouse. They're really bad and it's noticeable in game. Also, it sounds awful. All this about weight, skates, hardware to say, here's how it affects the gameplay. In blanket terms, flicks are slower, tracking is worse, and precision is worse, especially in tracking. In fact, I have one particular instance where the evidence is damning. If you take a look at this graph, you'll notice the discrepancy right away. You might also be wondering why there's a cardboard label on there. That's for a future video. Just know that that mouse is made of cardboard and did better than the Thrift Store mouse. I just think this graph is funny, so I'm going to show it anyway. You don't even need to look at scores or numbers. You can kind of just tell by watching the gameplay which mouse I'm better at aiming with. And yeah, I know you can say one mouse is like $60, one is far less, but then there's the cardboard mouse argument. That's made of cardboard. It has the internals of a $16 mouse. Anyway, I don't really know what the point of this video was. I just thought it was funny that I found a gaming mouse in the thrift store on the shoe aisle, and I wanted to make the video. I'm aware that a lot of what I'm saying doesn't really make sense. Like, why would I compare this to the OP1? I don't know. I just wanted to. I guess if you really want it, I'll leave a link to this mouse in the description. Look out for the cardboard mouse video, which is coming at some point. I started working on that a while ago, and now I'm working on this just because I got bored of that one. But that one will be probably more interesting than this. Anyway, leave a like and subscribe. Goodbye.